to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I'm Josh Hallman.
And as a reminder, Act Two is a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things that we do. Thank you for joining us here. Another thing that we do.
What?
Our Act Two mixers, Joshua.
Let's go!
Last week we had our second mixer of the Act 2 podcast life, and it was bigger than the first, which was awesome. A lot of new faces, which was very cool.
Yeah.
Josh instantly went in for tequila, not rosé. I didn't see a single rosé all night.
Correct. I made the game time decision. I just didn't trust that rosé. I didn't know. Could have been high in sugar. Didn't know for sure.
Rosé at a brewery is, I get it.
And then I saw the Ocho tequila, which is, apparently on the healthier side of tequila.
When you're like, no, it's got no additives. It's good. So it's healthy. Okay, Josh.
Oh man. One day we're gonna have the Act 2 Dreams, the alcohol line, tequila.
Our own tequila.
That's my dream. That's it.
A tequila and a rosé. The Act 2 rosé, Act 2 tequila.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. But yeah, so it was great. I was sipping it probably a little quickly at certain times, but yeah. Are we diving into party stuff?
Let's just dive into the party. What did you have fun?
I had a great time. Time flew by, actually. It wasn't until the very end when you said it was like 9:00, and I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess we're done here.
We just gotta go. Valet closes. Parking sucked, by the way, so apologies to everyone who had to park in the area. I ended up having to do valet, $15.
Yeah, which was across the street, which was weird.
That was weird.
But that's part of the battle, and that's just part of the charm of getting there. It's like, if you really want to be there, you'll be there.
I hate anything that's a struggle to be there. I've definitely gone to parties where I drove by and I was like, oh, I can't find parking. I'm going to drive by one more time. Nope, can't find parking. All right, I'm just going home. I'm not going to this party anymore.
For sure. I've done that as well. If anyone did that, just let us know. Before I forget, there were 3 people who won prizes.
Yes.
And I was in the moment, and I think I was supposed to get information, or I was saying for them to message us. So if you are listening to this and you won one of the prizes, can you just send us an email or a message on Instagram and just let us know, and then we will send you the gift.
Your Act 2 gift.
It
was cool. We had quizzes that not everyone did. I was a little disappointed by that. But it's good. It means that people didn't need that sort of I don't know, like in-betweener, I guess. Like some people were saying, like, I'm so glad you had it because it allowed me to like have something to talk about with someone.
Sure.
So I could like ask them, hey, what did you say for this one or whatever. Some people absolutely didn't need it and they were just in there and already chatting, people forming their groups and stuff. But I think I made the questions too hard because not a lot of people got anything right.
They were very difficult. But rightfully difficult. Because...
Listen, people, we got to watch movies. How else are we going to answer these questions? Or more importantly, learn how to write better.
How are you going to get free sweatshirts and T-shirts? And then what was also interesting about it, by the way, I really like the venue. I know that it is hard to park, but it like, for me, it's like a perfect, it's just open and there's games if you want games. There's food when you want food. So it has everything just minus the parking. But there was also 2 other events happening. I didn't know if you knew that. I think we did. We talked about that. And as the night progressed, I went over to one of the other events areas because I was just grabbing something from the bar, and they tried to get in on the Act 2 party. They were like, "Hey, what's going on?"
That party seems cooler.
They're like, "Hey, what's going on over there?" I was like, "It's the Act 2 podcast." They're like, "Oh," and so a couple of the people floated over. I don't know if you caught that.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was the Junior Hollywood Radio and TV Association or something, and then also there's like a TV exec party going on.
So the TV exec party, there was sorry, I was like, I was kind of like, why are you guys just sitting here? Come over. What are you talking about? What's there to talk about? And I don't know.
Did you bust them up? Were they like, oh God, this weird guy has to leave? Or were they like, yeah, writers, fuck yes?
No. They approached me. I was like, because they were the ones actually who were like, what are you guys doing over there?
Oh, gotcha.
So I kind of was blowing them up.
Hell yeah.
Their little group. So anyway.
There were definitely, it was interesting. There were people there who were not writers who saw the post on Reddit, like the screenwriting Reddit, that there was this party for screenwriters, and they came, and there were people who were producers and people who are aspiring studio executives who just love talking to creative people and meeting new writers and managers who were there. So it's very cool. We had a cool mix, and it was awesome to meet all the different writers, and like everyone's writing something very different, which is very cool. Like that was my first question, is always like, what kind of stuff do you write? Just because I'm intrigued by what everyone does. And it's interesting, Josh. I don't know if did you find like a similar question that people were asking across the night at all?
So this is actually something I wanted to talk about today, because I was getting a question that a lot of people asked me unrelated to screenwriting, was about my health.
Really?
Yeah. I'm good. I am totally fine. And it's just because I had an ankle injury and then I got sick one other time, and I feel like I'm just completely now I'll never live this down. But
you're like one of the healthiest people I know. I should just put that on record.
Can I tell you, not to go too far off course here, but I didn't tell you this yesterday, but I was helping someone move something, and I was moving this stuff around a room, and I turned my head and something fell, and I got hit really hard in the side of my head. And I actually had a thought that was like, I just hit my head really hard. What if I can't go to the mixer tonight?
Oh,
I didn't tell you that. Then I'm good. But okay, the questions. This was kind of, I guess I didn't mean to step into This Week in Writing or anything like that, but I got asked this by like 2 or 3 people, was, what do you love about screenwriting? And like, essentially, how do you keep going, and how do you keep the hope in screenwriting? Because I think it's a difficult time, and I think everyone's kind of acknowledged that, oh my goodness, it's a little tough right now. And I think when people talk about how hard it is, it doesn't make things better. But I know it's good for like therapeutic reasons, but also I think sometimes if you hold on to that a little too long, then it becomes almost like disparaging. Like, it's just like, why even try? Like, why am I even doing this? So those were a couple things that I was talking with a couple people, which I loved because it added some depth to the conversations. And
that's cool. I didn't get questions like that.
Oh, really?
I got questions like, why'd you start a podcast? That's the biggest question most people had. Like, why did you start, and why do you do it?
I got that. I got, why did you start?
Yeah. And my answer is Josh Hallman. I feel like you were the one who was like, we gotta, all the things we talk about, we should start a podcast. I was like, that's ridiculous, Josh. No one's gonna listen to us talk about anything. And it just kept kind of pushing, I think, that this idea that this could be real.
Yeah.
That we could just talk about the things we talk about in writers group.
Yeah. We would sit down though and have these built up topics that we needed to discuss, and we would talk about them for like an hour straight, and then go into writers group. And then there was like, we were both like, come on, we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, we used to have TBDs. Things that would come up. The old This Week in Writing was TBDs, and we would always go early to writers group, and do our TBDs of the week, stuff that had happened that had come up in our writing lives.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt for a relic for us.
Yeah, like really old school font. Yeah, no, but it was great. It was cool to see everyone building community, and I think I had a writers group sign up sheet there, so I think a few groups formed. Hopefully, you guys, if you did sign up for a writers group and you didn't actually take the picture of your guys' group and with all the names and email lists, like let us know at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com. I can send you a picture of the group that you're in, so that you can reach out and start organizing. We're actually going to talk about writers groups today based on that, because I did get some people talking about writers groups as well at the mixer, where they were saying it's really hard for me to keep my writers group together, or I can't find a writers group, or I don't understand writers groups. Like there's a lot of that as well. So we're going to talk about that today, since that was something that came up at the mixer. But yeah, it was super fun. It was great. Thank you for everyone who came out. We had people coming from all over once again. I think last time our furthest person was Huntington Beach. This time our furthest person was San Diego.
Yeah, it does mean a lot. You know, people did say we should do it more often.
I heard that as well. Yeah.
So get those quizzes ready.
I'll print out less since everyone disappoints me and doesn't
No,
do
listen,
quizzes.
it's a great thing that the quizzes weren't in full circulation, because it just meant exactly what you were saying. A lot of people were mingling.
Also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, a lot more women came to this one, which was very cool. I feel like a lot more women than last time, if I recall, which was great. Okay, let's start with this week in writing. This is already kind of a this week in writing. I have a couple that I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about how good a director I've been working with is at taking notes. And he's just so good, because I give a lot of notes. That's just, I hate myself for doing it, but that's also part of the process. Trying to perfect the thing you're working at, you want to give a lot of notes. And you want someone, this is what's interesting. This is what I find. When I give notes to my director, I want him to say to me, this is a great note. I don't know if this is the right solve for it. I think I have a better solve for it. This is a great note though, and we'll think about it. Or I don't think this is going to work the way you think it's going to work. Like I want him to engage with me in that way, and to say no if he really thinks that this is a no, and to explain to me why it's a no and why his idea might actually work better. He has like a more creative vision for it to go in this way. And I think what's so great about him too is that every time he gets a note, he never is a naysayer, right? He's never like, he never tries to justify why the thing is in there that way. He never tries to kind of say, Tasha, you don't understand what we're trying to do here. Nothing like that. It's always like, yep, that's a great point. Yep, that's a great point. Yep, we'll take a look at that. Yes, we'll take a look at that. I'm not sure how this note will work, but I get what you're trying to say. So let's take a look at that. Like it's always affirmations. And I think that's a really good lesson for writers, because this is 100% how we need to be to producers when we're getting notes from producers or directors at the script phase. Is absolutely, that's a great idea. Absolutely, I'll take a look at that. And now what I get back may not be what my proposed solution was in my notes. It will probably be better, because like with writers, we go back into our writer brain, him into his director brain, and thinks about actually, okay, what is the heart of what Tasha's note was, and how do I get to it in the best possible way? And it might not be how I suggested. And that is the same way with producers. They will suggest things and it may not be right, but they're hitting on something that is right. And I just love the way, because I've worked with other directors who don't make me feel this way, but I love the way he makes me feel about notes, which is, that is a very smart note. And I hear what you're saying, even though this isn't right. So even if I'm wrong, he makes me feel like I did a good job. And that's how producers want to feel. And that's how we should make them feel. So I just thought that was a really good lesson to talk about.
And so, I mean, just to open this up and talk about it a little bit, is that receiving the note and just not dismissing it off the bat, even if you know, like, because sometimes you get defensive as a writer or any creative, you know, you get defensive. So you want to just go on the attack, and, you know, you're like, no, this won't work because this. Quick little anecdote. I actually was talking to a friend who was talking about some writers, and he was just talking about how the writers got notes back, and it was kind of, they had this really great script and newer writers, but they received notes back and they proceeded to basically over explain each note that they were given and why, and like defending their choices. It was just one of those things where it was like, oh man, like everyone that was kind of hearing this story was just like, oh, that's not good, because it's just, you know, it can be problematic.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to defend it, because in some ways what you hear when you hear that note is, you're stupid, you didn't do your job right. So you're like, no, I did my job right. You're stupid because you didn't catch how good of a job I did. And that should never really be your response, even if that's your feeling. And I'm sure it is.
Yeah, of course.
I think like in the meeting, you're like, yep, absolutely. Yep. I hear you. And then sometimes, guess what? you don't address the note because they are wrong.
Yeah.
Or it is there. I just got a pair of notes back that were like, this whole scene needs to be completely different because I don't understand what these characters are talking about. And then what I realized is I could just change literally 2 words in the line just before the scene that was problematic that would help explain the whole scene. And that was actually the solve, not this crazy ass suggestion that they had to change the actual scene itself. And so as a writer, and that's what this director does, right? He's like, okay, I hear what your note is. Absolutely, we'll go talk about it with my board artists and we'll find a really good solution for it. And that's what you have to do as a writer as well. Rather than say, but on page 5, I say this, and so therefore I have actually explained it to you.
Totally. And by the way, I'm not saying to not defend your notes or not to defend your script when there's just like a diplomatic way to go about explaining why you made the choices that you made. Going back to your point that you just made where you just changed 2 words. After you did that, did you explain like, hey, your scene, I heard what you said about wanting to change the scene, but I felt like if I did this, it would accomplish the same thing. Did you even have to explain it, or did you
I
just
didn't
do
have
it?
to get I've been in conversations like that, but I didn't have to do that. In this case, I just responded to the notes with, these are really great notes, guys. Thank you so much. They all make sense.
Wow.
And then I went and did my thing. And then they're going to see it and be like, okay, that makes sense.
That's beautiful.
It's great. I love notes. Like I love like the problem solving that comes with notes. I've come to that place in my life. All right, the second This Week in Writing I have is Fall Guy, Joshua.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My ideal situation is that you have also seen this movie and we could talk about it. Cause I like don't want to talk about it with you until you've seen it, but you've done this to yourself.
I know.
This is like the best movie I've seen in a very long time.
So I just to defend myself, like I was getting notes here. I've been meaning to see Fall Guy. As a matter of fact, I had tickets to see Fall Guy. And due to certain life circumstances, I could not see Fall Guy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go this day. And then it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And now I'm over 2 weeks out and I have to see it. Everyone I talk to is like, how have you not seen this movie?
This is like the most Joshian movie I have ever seen. And when you see it, you'll know what that means.
No, I've heard that across the board. I think I know what that means. I don't know how I'm going to feel watching the movie. I'm going to be like, why did I write this?
I'm not sure you actually know, because I still want to leave a little surprise for you. I don't think you know what it means when we say Joshian, because I don't think it's so Joshian that I don't even think you expect it to be as Joshian as it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing Fall Guy.
It's so fucking good. And like, I'm very confused why it's not like the biggest hit in the world.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to people at the Act 2 Mixer, and some people were saying that they brought people who are not in the industry with them to go see this movie. And people who are not in the industry were like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why stuntmen are important. I don't get why this matters. It's fine. The movie's fine.
Interesting.
5 out of 10. Whereas I'm like 15 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is a really good movie to me. And then I think you have to be a lover of movies to really love this movie the way that I love this movie. But if you are a lover of movies, it is, whew. I'm seeing it again. I'm seeing it twice. You know the last movie I saw twice in theaters, Joshua?
Maverick?
Yes.
Yeah. If you see Fall Guy twice before I see it once.
I will be. I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Oh, Jesus. You're seeing it twice before I see it once. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to go on Monday. Or today.
It's so far away.
I know.
Your anniversary is you gotta just go for your anniversary.
I'm trying. I tried to go for Mother's Day. I tried to go for something else. I just I'm not going to make excuses. I'm just dropping the ball.
It's so great. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to talk about Fall Guy. We'll talk about it again after you've seen it.
Okay, we're going to do a full episode on it.
I hope so. This is my dream.
Okay.
As I said, our topic is how to have a successful writers group. It's come up because we were trying to pair people in writers groups at our mixer, and this conversation came up a lot at the mixer and just always comes up with writers because writers want a writers group. Writers know they need a writers group, but having a writers group and then also keeping a writers group is extremely difficult. And I just want to talk through. Josh and I have had a writers group since 2014
Yeah.
to 2020, like 10, I feel like.
2010?
Yeah, 2010 is when we started our writers group. I was still at Universal. Yeah, we've been a writers group for 14 years.
Hang on, dude. All right, keep going. I'm going to find out.
So we know a little bit about consistency is what I'm trying to say. And I think the biggest problem facing writers groups is consistency.
Yeah. You might be right. I had a chill go through my body.
I know, we're old. I think the reasons why consistency is difficult is just because, of course, life comes up, right? Josh hasn't seen Fall Guy. Is this a flaw of his? Yes, it is. But life came up and he just couldn't go do it. So I get that often writers groups are kind of the first thing that falls by the wayside if something comes up. But I think you can combat those consistency problems in some of the ways that we have with our writers group. One is consistent scheduling. So we know it's in my calendar from now until forever. In my Google Calendar, you can say like it never ends. This date. That's what I have. Writers group is every second Wednesday, and it is always every second Wednesday until I die.
Yeah.
And sometimes we move it. Sometimes it's a Tuesday, but that's kind of a game day decision that day. If we find, hey, Josh has a thing, Dave has a thing, friend of the podcast, can't make it to that Wednesday, but I could always do that Tuesday. Or, hey, we can push it to next week. Yeah. That's a conversation we are happy to have. However, it is every Wednesday otherwise, and we just know it's there, and we schedule our lives around it. If someone wants to say, hey, do you want to have dinner on that Wednesday night? I say, no, I'm sorry. I have writers group. Or I don't tell them. I just say, no, sorry, I have a thing.
Yeah.
I can't do anything that is a meeting. So the more you schedule yourself very consistently like that, the better off you will be. So that's the first step you want to do when you start your writers group is talk to everyone. What is the day that you can always make? How often do we want to meet? I think every 2 weeks is really great. I think if you wait longer than that, then there's sort of a lackadaisicalness that can start to happen. That keeps you honest.
I just want to speak to two things. Number one, obviously we'll cancel if it's on like Christmas or something like that, but it is in our calendars forever. Number two, you're absolutely right about treating it like it's like a meeting. I honestly have always looked at it as like a very important thing, and it has been very helpful rather than treating it as something where you're like, I'll just get the next one. I'll just get the next one. Even when I miss groups, I feel really bad about it. Like I
and
feel
you
like
check in too with us if you skip group or something.
I feel like I have to like over explain myself.
You do. It's very important to make group.
Yeah. No, it's true. I just don't want people to think I'm like just checked out. Like, nah, I don't want to be there. Like I always anyway. So absolutely.
For sure. I sort of feel like sometimes writers can think of writers group like some people think of the gym. Like it's something I can just schedule over at that time.
Yeah.
Even though I know I should go to the thing because I know it's helpful. It's open time that I can schedule over. And I think you need to stop treating it that way and start thinking of it as a meeting and forcing yourself to go and make it a habit. And it's part of your writing habit now. That's just what it is. Same way you want to try to write every day. This is part of your writing habit. And that will be the key to consistency. And I think also as a part of that, knowing where you meet every time. I think basically the point is the least amount of uncertainty that there is per every group, the stronger the odds are that you will all make it.
Yeah.
So we meet always at the same place every 2 weeks at the same time. The end.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about types of submissions that you can do because I think this is somewhat related to consistency because I feel like writers will stop going to their writers group if they have nothing to share, particularly if they have nothing to share consistently. And I don't know, the last time I've shared something in writers group, Josh, was our thing, I guess, which was by this point a month and a half ago or so. So we've had a lot of meetings between then and now, and I still go.
Yeah. But that's not true. You share a lot. Like there's certain, even if it's ideas that we need to talk about or
Yes.
uh outlines or so, or like even if it's just having the conversation, um I I don't mean to step on your toes where this is going, but I do think it's helpful where sometimes it's writers group is, I think, more than just a full script or something like that. Sometimes it can just be an idea, a outline, a brief synopsis of something, and you're just like, "Hey, I want to talk this through. What do you think about this idea? Where could this go?" And sometimes it's we're doing page notes. Sometimes you're just openly talking about like an idea that you have.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of why it's related to consistency, because I think the more you can come with just like, because you're always coming up with ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and they may be bonkers and you may be insecure about sharing them, but that's what the writers group is for. So if you haven't written an outline, you haven't written a script, you can still come and say, hey, I had this idea this week, what do you guys think? And
Yeah.
just get initial blush thoughts. It doesn't have to be super involved. It just be like, do you think this is a good idea? And then probably what your writers group will do is like, oh, okay, like this makes me ask this question. And now I have this question. And now you're starting to brainstorm and your brain is getting full of new ideas. And now you're supercharged to start really diving into this nascent idea.
Yeah.
So yes, to Josh's point, we bring absolutely everything from log line, like a list of log lines sometimes, to just an idea that's in our head that week that we dreamt about, all the way to finished scripts. We've had people also bring in parts of their novels and stuff like that. And all of that is fine. It's all fine.
Yeah.
And I think the more you schedule with consistency, the more you will have time to read all of these things. And so another thing that we do in our writers group is we don't set a limit to how many people can submit or how many pages they submit. There is no limit. It is absolutely endless. However, we have a deadline of when you can submit things, which is the Sunday before that Wednesday that we meet, which it allows us, 2.5 days to get through all of the reading, which I think makes sense. And I think just as an unspoken rule, if we are submitting a full screenplay, we will try to submit it even earlier than that's first Sunday so that
Yeah.
people have more time to do that. But we have definitely had times, it's been a while, but we've definitely had times where like all 5 people in our writers group submitted a full length screenplay, and it was a lot of work, and you do have to take a lot of time. Like I've, Paul's gone to bed and I've been like, I got to read my writers group
Yeah.
stuff. And that's just what I have to do because it's prepping for your meeting tomorrow. Right. So
Yeah.
the more you think of it less as homework and more as something that is really just very good for you and your career and your writing life, the better off you'll be. And I think that's sort of the big lesson I want to imbue on people is I want you to stop thinking that your writers group is there solely for you to just get notes on your things.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think Josh and I want to completely change how you think of your writers group. It's there not this casual way to improve your writing over time. I think it's neither casual or something that exists just for you. It is key to your mental health as a writer. It is key to your career success as a writer because you are not getting notes, feedback, you're practicing how to give notes and how to accept feedback. You're doing all the things you were going to do professionally, but in a really safe space, which is so rare and so unique. And so, career, mental health, um, creates community.
Mm-hmm.
It creates consistency in your writing so that you're not just writing for nothing. You're not just writing and it sits on your desk and goes into the ether. You're writing for people. Um, Please, please, please take it more seriously, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And my guess is anyone who's starting a group, it'll probably start out with a ton of submissions where everyone's kind of like backlogged and they're like, oh man, I have these scripts. No one's read them, maybe 2-3 scripts or whatever. So like the first couple months, it's going to be, this is just my opinion. The first couple months, it's going to be uh, a lot, or maybe it'll just feel
Mm-hmm.
like, Jesus, I can't sustain at this level. But then it just peters out and you're all of a sudden someone's not submitting for a couple weeks, someone does, someone has an idea, or and then it gets easier. I feel like at the beginning, from what I understand, I just, even with us and other people that I know, it's like people are hot out of the gate, just
Yeah,
boom, go.
because I have so much stuff. I'm ready to share. I'm ready
Yeah,
to go.
I'm looking for a
And
group.
also, we've definitely skipped weeks, right? Like I hate doing that because I hate setting a precedent of skipping weeks. It's just something that I know also makes you anxious as well to skip a week. But sometimes, that Sunday will come, which is the deadline of when everyone should submit. Nothing's come through, and I'll send an email saying, "Hey guys, is anyone submitting, or should we go ahead and push to next
Yeah.
time?" And sometimes the response will be, "I have something, but it's not going to be ready by Wednesday. Can I can I get notes next week instead?" And that next week is our off week, right? But we'll still say yes, absolutely, we'll do that. We'll meet like an extra week basically, and then could just continue the following week. So like if people, particularly if you're working with a manager or with producers or whoever, and you need notes by a specific time, we will be flexible with that as well. Like if you need an extra writers group date, we're there for you. We
Yeah.
got you. Because also part of that is I know that if Josh needs that extra week, great, I'll give it to him because I know if something comes up for me, he'll be there for me. It's that give and take that we have in writers group, which I think is important.
Always.
Another thing I want to talk about is genre. I think, Josh, do you have an opinion on if everyone should be TV writers in the group, or if everyone should be genre writers in a group, or if it should be mixed? Do you have an opinion on that?
I do not. I think it should be, I mean, I guess I kind of do. I think it should be mixed. I don't think I mean, I could see the argument for it, but I just think in today's landscape, there's going to be people who are going to try television, they're going to try film, and if you are a screenwriter, you should probably be familiar with certain different formats and be able to give notes on those different kind of formats. So, I think a blend is a good thing, and I guess I do have an opinion. Yeah, that was it. What do you think?
I agree with you. I also think it should be mixed. I do think it might be hard if you're like the one drama writer in a group of all comedy writers.
Oh,
Like
right.
our
Okay.
group, I think, is mixed in such a way that we will write stuff that's funny, but they're usually not like straight comedies.
Yeah.
Like even you do an action comedy or a rom com, or there's dramedies for sure, but we don't
Yeah.
have just a straight comedy writer. Sometimes that can be tougher. So if you're a comedy writer or you're a drama writer in a comedy writers group, if you're feeling like that's not the spot for you, that could make sense, and you may need to find something else. But everyone's different. And also getting a comedy writer's point of view on your script is always also very valuable. So
Yeah.
I
You,
agree with the mix, though.
and it's actually helpful when you're reading a different genre that like if I submit something to you guys and it doesn't really match with someone, like it's always helpful hearing those notes because it comes from like a completely different place of
Mm-hmm.
maybe someone's like very focused on character and I'm too plot heavy. And then all of a sudden it helps you with the character and you're like, oh, okay, I can see how this overlaps. And that's the beauty of notes, man.
It's the
That's the
beauty of
freaking
notes,
beauty. Anyway.
which is a perfect segue to my next bullet point on writers groups, which is how we give notes.
Yes.
And we've been in a room or a writers group before, not our long-term writers group. Josh and I went rogue once and went to a different writers group, and they would go around the table and start on the right, and then that person would give all of their notes, and then go to the next person. They would give all of their notes, which I did not like because by the time you get to the last person, pretty much all the notes have been said,
Yeah.
and not everyone gets to sort of take part, I guess. And it's also like it feels more bombarding when it's just one person giving you all of these notes.
Yeah.
So the way that we do it in our group is, first off, everyone starts with what they love about it. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
And then
Ignore.
and then Josh promptly ignores that. And then it's sort of like not like quite a raise your hand situation because it's not that formal, but someone will start and then will be like, so these were sort of my overall thoughts. We usually start with the macro. My overall thoughts were like, I love this so much. The concept is so great. But I was a little bit confused about what the main relationship was. And so here are some notes where I felt confused in the script and why I felt confused in the script, et cetera. And like, that's kind of how we'll start. And then by the end of the group, actually, I'll take a step back. And then usually people will sort of add on to that. Like Josh might say, I was also confused, Tasha, just so you know about that relationship. So that helps me as the writer because I'm like, okay, it's not just one person who was confused. Two people were confused. Oh, three people were confused.
Yeah.
But Josh was confused at a different point. Okay, like I'm going to have to look at that place as well. And then from there, we get smaller and smaller and smaller to even doing page notes where I was confused why this character said this in this line, or I your action description here was like really unclear and I got lost. So those kinds of things are how we do it. And the way that we receive notes, I think, is equally important as the way we give notes. And the way we receive notes is we don't respond. This is actually what they teach you in like fiction writing classes in college is you just take the notes and you don't respond. You don't argue. You can say thank you. Thank you for the compliment. But you never try to defend or speak up. You just take the notes and you write them down and then deal with them later. However, you can ask follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Like if Josh says he was confused by this section, go, oh, okay, like which line confused you or why were you confused? Okay, just so I know what that is.
Yeah. Sometimes if I get a note and it's like, this isn't working or whatever, I think what we all kind of do is like, okay, but here's what I was trying to do in this scene. I'm trying to get these people to justify why they fought or whatever. And so it's like explaining what you're trying to do and figuring out where that's not landing along the way.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah.
Rather, I mean, we don't just sit there silently. We're like,
no, it is a conversation in some ways, but it's usually that. It's asking follow-up questions. It's saying, yes, a lot of, well, I was trying to make the mother-daughter relationship feel like this in this scene. And then Josh is like, oh, okay, if that's what your intention was, then probably I want something a little bit more like this. Okay, got it. And then I'll write that down. But it's never defending. It's never arguing.
Yeah.
It's just always questions and trying to get at the heart of the problem. And part of that is we have such a safe space, right? It's such a safe space that we feel like I can say, look, I was trying to do this and I know it didn't work. Tell me why it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and going back to your point about like the page notes, I don't think we get too bogged down on that, meaning we don't like give macro notes and then it's like, okay, page 1, you're missing a comma. Page 2.
Yes.
Maybe
that's a good point as
don't
well.
Need a double dash here. Like, I think that's not good for anybody. That would make you hate the group.
Totally agree. That is such a good point. We do that eventually, but it's literally at the very last stage. Like early stages, early drafts, please do not give them typo notes and comma notes and all of that stuff. Give them big feedback. Just know where they are in the process and give that correct feedback. So what we do at the very end, like let's say I am ready to turn this draft into the studio or to my agent, and I've done multiple drafts with my writers group. I am fucking ready to hit send. I just want one last pass. We'll do what's called a meat grinder. And that is when I buy them all dinner and drinks because it's going to take a long time. So we've had meat grinders that lasted like 4 hours, 5 hours sometimes.
Meat grinder's a very special occasion. I feel like that's like...
We haven't had one in years.
Thank God.
Where you literally will go line by line and say, hey, this needs a comma. This is misspelled. This wording feels a little weird in the mouth or like in my head. I would maybe suggest this word instead. Like we're at the stage where it's like the final pass. But that is a very rare occasion, and we suggest not giving those notes. Just speaking broadly, story-wise, structure, stuff like that, in other drafts. And that's kind of it. That's sort of the overview of, I think, why we succeed as a writers group.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, so anyone who signed up for a group that came out of the mixer, that's, I don't know. I just love talking about the group. I could talk about writers group all the time.
I love it. It's just so important. And I think I just love you guys.
Same. I'd be dead in a ditch somewhere without you guys.
I know, it's true. Okay, quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
Don't ever let the viewer settle in and get ahead of you. Paul Schrader. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.